Lately it seems more and more so that the zombie genre is fading from mainstream appreciation. This year we've witnessed the ending of the cult phenomenon of the Walking Dead TV series. There hasn't been a major blockbuster production revolving around zombies in a long while, besides the aforementioned series. Even Resident Evil has become more horror-like and distanced itself from the zombie theme. And as this genre fades from our collective memories, I find myself reminiscing on all the times this beloved theme has given to me. I thoroughly enjoyed myself relieving stress in the Dead Rising series or surviving my way through State of Decay. There's been some of the best moments shared via these kinds of games, and I thoroughly believe that they'll one day have a resurgence. But until that day rolls around, we can sit and share all we've learned about surviving a zombie apocalypse. The zombie trope has been alive and well in media for decades now, but it is in this sort of limbo state. Despite this, during its heyday, there were plenty of titles to cultivate die-hard followings. While they were all connected through the theme of zombies, many had a variety of different approaches to survive the zombie apocalypse. Where Left 4 Dead has a co-op run from A to B approach, Dead Rising is more of an arcadey feel with completely improvised weapon systems. Whatever game you choose, there is a lot to learn about potentially surviving a hypothetical situation such as zombies. Of course, Resident Evil was the first real zombie survival game I played, and as clunky as those tank controls were, we are all aware of how incredible those games are. Plucking off zombie heads with precision never felt better, and as the series continued, it only got more awesome. Even in the modern era, the remakes are shattering the image that was already built by the early games, and as awesome as those games were, it wasn't until the Dead Rising series release in 2006 that my socks were really blown off. Dead Rising shoves the player face first into Willamette Mall, the epicenter of a new zombie outbreak, and controlling the character photojournalist Frank West, who's covered wars you know, we get to explore a conspiracy unfolding. The game is a complete masterpiece and still remains relevant today, even though the series has become a shadow of its former self. The story is phenomenal, but the infinite mode is where survivalists will really scratch their itch. The goal in this mode is simple: use the mechanics to survive. Psychopaths have spawn timers throughout the mall and are hoarding their food while standing in place, chugging whatever you have to stay alive as your health slowly ticks to nothing is the central mechanic to surviving. It's an amazing zombie survival experience, true to what one would expect from a game of this caliber. It allowed us to relive our Dawn of the Dead fantasy while exploring Willamette Mall, using all at our disposal to level the undead hordes. There were moments in the game that'll have you clinging to the edge of your seat and jumping out of satisfaction as you lead that massive group of survivors back to the security room, or you escape that zombie that tried to reach out and end your day. Even the save feature was interesting, with having to use a washroom to save the game. Nearly everything in Willamette, being interactive, was a great feature as well, and the game is an excellent stress reliever. If there is one thing I learned from Dead Rising about zombie survival, it's that ingenuity is key, and that to always have some OJ on hand. Next to Bombast the Survival Senses was an outlier in the whole zombie world, yet a powerhouse that spawned a whole slew of similar games. Of course I'm talking about Left 4 Dead. Sprinting through the zombie apocalypse was never more fun. With tons of new creative types of zombies to fight, it was always a blast, and especially with friends, never a dull moment. However, it felt like it was all over too soon. Left 4 Dead remains with 2 installments and no plans for a new one, though it seems other studios are taking up the reins. Games like Back 4 Blood and World War Z attempt to breathe new life into the dying genre, pun intended. While World War Z was a bore, Back 4 Blood is shaping up to be a true successor for Left 4 Dead. Grouping with a few of your buddies and sprinting through the zombie apocalypse, scrambling to stick together, is just so compelling and sure to pump some adrenaline into any player. The harder difficulties are so unforgiving too. and will surely instill the fear that would accompany such an ill fate. Left 4 Dead taught me to stay on my toes and keep moving. Never stopping is the only way forward in a world where clusters of zombies await around every turn. The same year Left 4 Dead broke onto the scene, there was the inception of Nazi zombies in 2008's Call of Duty World at War. Now, some people swear by these experiences, but they never really struck me as very interesting, so I can't really comment on them, and realistically, I find they don't impart too much in regards to the apocalypse. It was after these games released that there was a real lull in zombie media, at least from AAA studios and within the mainstream. This gave players time to really cement themselves within these experiences and extract all they were worth. It wasn't until 2013 that players would be able to feast their fingers upon a new zombie title, and it came not only out of nowhere, but was a mod for a game that had nothing to do with zombies. This is DayZ. DayZ, like Left 4 Dead, was a powerhouse in and of itself. It spawned an entire genre based around the concept, which then spawned another genre known today as the Battle Royale. This hole goes deep, but as far as zombie survival experiences go, there was no other one quite like DayZ, especially in the early days. It was a strange title, as while it included zombies, they were so buggy that they never really functioned as intended. Even the standalone version of the game has a hard time coding these zombies to behave in the intended manner. It was therefore that the real highlight of this title was the player versus player combat. This was the key feature that separated DayZ from its contemporaries. No one had been able to accomplish combat quite like DayZ, owing thanks to Arma and its engine. Because of the ultra-realism of Arma, the game was modded into DayZ, and the engine that later became running the standalone version was incredibly engaging and really gave off a real survival vibe. I'll never forget my heart pounding out of my chest while I stalk a player through Cherno or Electro, or the sheer amount of rage experienced when dying with a full kit out on the Northwest airfield. There was just so much fun to be had with this game, and I learned a lot about the hypothetical zombie apocalypse. Namely, the fact that zombies may not be the enemy they're perceived to be. The real threat is those survivors alongside you. The very same year DayZ was unleashed, another title I'm also fond of reached store shelves. This game being State of Decay. State of Decay gave a whole new zombie survival experience, almost opposite of DayZ. The game revolves around building communities like The Walking Dead and surviving together, while bolstering the base to survive the hordes. It was a new experience that many were clamoring for, as no zombie game had done base building or community management until this point. It really pushed the zombie survival fantasy and did a good job of doing so. It was so satisfying to really build up a strong community over several hours and then drive out to a new settlement to survive and thrive. Even collecting supplies while avoiding hordes or wandering zombies was a compelling feature that had me doing loot runs constantly to make sure my community was top notch and had all the supplies necessary to do so. Aside from clones and random indie titles, the zombie gaming genre went into a great lull from 2013 till 2018 when the State of Decay sequel was released. Then the following year, Days Gone reached store shelves and sought to provide a new narrative-driven zombie experience. With how poorly that game did relative to other Sony titles, it seems we won't see a new successor to the series, despite the developer's desire to do so. Even during this time and until now, the zombie genre has saw very little unique titles, and the genre has steadily been dying out, with Nazi zombies of Call of Duty and games like DayZ Standalone carrying the torch. This huge dip in zombie titles continues to this day, and it's paralleled within the mainstream by things like The Walking Dead. It seems that at least for the foreseeable future, the zombie genre of gaming is experiencing a die-off, and the mainstream has slowly distanced itself from these kinds of experiences. But it wasn't always like this. I remember a time over the past 10 years where everyone was obsessed with zombies. Even my film and lit professor would constantly make zombie analogies, and the class ate them up. It seemed at one point we were all incredibly invested in zombies and couldn't get enough of these experiences like the ones I've gone over. But alas, all good things come to an end. At least with this ocean of zombie experiences, we've all learned how to survive, even thrive within a zombie apocalypse, even if the lessons imparted seem to contradict one another. I know, with all these games I've played, that I will have the knowledge required to survive. Thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know what games have taught you about surviving the zombie apocalypse, and until the next one, take care.